In the small town of Villisca, Iowa, the night of June 9th, 1912, was warm and still, the kind of summer evening where the air hangs heavy and the crickets hum a restless tune. The Moore family, Josiah, Sarah, and their 4 children, Herman, Catherine, Boyd, and Paul, had spent the day at a church event, a children's program that ended with laughter and hymns. They weren't alone that evening. 2 young friends of the children, Lena and Ina Stillinger, had joined them, invited to spend the night at the Moores' modest 2-story home on 2nd Street. By 10 p.m., the house was dark. The family and their guests settled into their beds, the town slipping into a quiet slumber under a moonless sky. But something moved in that stillness. A figure, cloaked in shadow, slipped through the back door left unlocked, as was the custom in a trusting town like Villisca. In his hand, he carried an axe, its blade dulled from use but heavy with intent. He knew the house. He'd watched it, perhaps for days, noting the rhythm of its occupants. The oil lamp he carried flickered faintly as he climbed the narrow stairs, his boots silent on the worn wood. The air grew thick, as if the house itself sensed the violation. Josiah and Sarah slept in the master bedroom, their breathing soft and even. The intruder stood over them, his silhouette a jagged tear against the darkness. With a single brutal swing, the axe came down, splitting Josiah's skull. Sarah stirred, a gasp escaping her lips. But before she could scream, the blade found her, too. Blood soaked the sheets, pooling on the floorboards, the metallic tang mingling with the humid night air. The house didn't wake, no cries, no footsteps. It was as if the walls swallowed the sound. The children were next. Herman, Catherine, Boyd, and Paul lay in their beds, their small forms curled beneath quilts sewn by their mother's hands. One by one, the axe fell, each strike precise and merciless. Their faces, peaceful in sleep, were left unrecognizable, the weapon's weight crushing bone and snuffing out life. Downstairs, in the guest room, Lena and Ina Stillinger met the same fate. Lena, the older of the 2 at 12, might have stirred. Her body was found with defensive wounds, her nightgown pulled up as if she tried to flee, but there was no escape. The silence held. By dawn, the house stood as a tomb. The killer had lingered, some said for hours. He'd covered the mirrors with cloths, as if to shield himself from his own reflection. He'd locked the doors from the inside, pulled the curtains tight, and left the axe leaning against the kitchen wall, its blade crusted with blood and hair. When Mary Peckham, a neighbor, noticed the stillness, no smoke from the chimney, no children playing, she knocked on the door. No answer. She called for help, and soon the town marshal pried open the back entrance. What they found defied comprehension. 8 bodies, bludgeoned beyond recognition, lay where they'd slept. Blood had seeped through the mattresses, staining the floors below. The townsfolk gathered, their whispers turning to wails as the horror sank in. Someone had walked among them, unseen, and turned a home into a slaughterhouse. The investigation was a mess. Hundreds trampled the scene before it could be secured, gawking at the carnage. Suspects emerged: a traveling preacher with a dark past, a local businessman with a grudge, a drifter seen near the train tracks. But no one was ever convicted. The case grew cold, the killer's identity buried with the dead. Years later, the house still stands, preserved as a grim relic. Visitors report strange things, whispers in the attic, the sound of footsteps pacing the halls, a child's sob cut short. Some say the air feels wrong, heavy with a presence that never left. On quiet nights, locals swear they see a flicker of light in the windows, as if that oil lamp still burns, carried by a shadow that knows the house too well. The Moore family and the Stillinger girls were buried in Villisca's cemetery, their headstones a silent testament to a night when evil slipped through an unlocked door. The town moved on, but the question lingers unanswered. Who wielded the axe, and why did the silence hold? This story is rooted in the real Villisca axe murders, an unsolved crime that took place on June 9th to 10th, 1912. Josiah Moore, his wife Sarah, their 4 children, ages 5 to 11, and 2 overnight guests, Lena and Ina Stillinger, ages 8 and 12, were killed with an axe in their home. The details, such as the mirrors being covered, the axe left behind, and the locked doors, are factual, drawn from contemporary accounts and later investigations. The killer's identity remains unknown, and the house is now a tourist attraction, often cited for paranormal activity. While I've added sensory details and a narrative flow, the core events are true, making it a real horror story from American history. Feel the shadows creeping closer, hear the axes whisper in the dark. Don't let this tale vanish into the silence. Like this video to keep the lantern burning, share it to spread the chill through restless souls. Comment below with your darkest thoughts before the walls swallow them whole, and subscribe, or the unseen figure might linger at your door tonight. Join the haunted or be forgotten in the stillness